this episode you're getting ready to listen to. Hi there, it's Matthew Blates, the host of Learn from People Who Lived It. And today we're going to sit down with Kelly Zaragoza. I met her at a networking event. And when I learned, what she did, and then more specifically, the way in which she does it, I was like, we got to sit down and talk. And so just a couple of weeks ago, I drove up to her office on 15th Ave in Phoenix, and we had a great discussion about one of my favorite topics, inner child. And if you have ever heard those two words and sort of wondered what they are, this is the best place for you to be right now, because we are totally going to shake it out. As a matter of fact, in this podcast, I'm going to walk you through the exact exercise that I did to work through one of my deepest inner child wounds. And it's powerful stuff, man, because when you work through this, or when you understand kind of like where these operating systems stem from, you free up so much of yourself for this world. And it literally can't be understated how much freedom is waiting for people on the other side once they make this discovery. If you live your life and you know your past, sorry, I don't know why that was so hard for that to come out, and your past haunts you, or as she says in this podcast today, if you're somebody who can't really remember your childhood, you should cue into this podcast today.
Looking for no bullshit conversation about mental health? Find Learn from People Who Lived It wherever you get podcasts. Search it using all one word. Learn from People Who Lived It.
Welcome to another episode of Learn from People Who Lived It.
I think that's why a lot of people are resistant to it. They think it's going to be like this process where you're going to be debilitated for days on end, and it's just not true. It's empowering and strengthening,
Seems like a great place to start.
Yeah.
We are gonna sit down and talk to Kelly Zaragoza today. I met you just a couple of weeks ago at some Culture Crush event.
Yeah.
Totally hit it off. Like one of your kids is off to college fairly soon.
We just moved her in. I flew in last night at 3 p.m., went straight to a State 48 event, got home at 10:30 last night, and then we're here today. So I haven't even had time to process it.
Well, in case I haven't said, we're officially podcasting right now.
Awesome.
And I wanted to do a better job, as I just told you, of getting into these community counseling places, talking with other therapists and saying like, what's showing up? What's walking through the door right now? And so I'm hoping that you and I have a conversation about what is the state of your community?
Yeah. No, to be honest, it's exciting. Having all of this access to information, even like the TikTok, the Instagram, the YouTube, the books, the people that are normalizing the conversation, I think is really getting people to reflect on the way they respond to the environment around them. So whether that means their relationships, their jobs, their friendships, their own anxiety that they have when they wake up in the middle of the night, there's something that tells them, I think I need to figure this out. And knowing that therapy is much more accessible than I think it's ever been. They are coming in the office and working those things out.
Wow. I don't know that I expected you to say that answer,
Yeah.
right? I expected to hear something like, people are burned out, they're stressed out, they're overwhelmed. And I'm sure they're all of those things.
Yeah.
But they're coming in with a different lens. They're not walking, because to me, the difference between the two walks is, number one, I walk in feeling like I've got some opportunity. The other way is I walk in feeling like I'm broken and that there's something wrong with me.
Yeah.
And those are really two totally different ways to approach therapy. I will tell you that I approach therapy most of my life with that attitude of like, I'm just trying to figure this out.
Yeah.
But I did approach my therapy 3 years ago as a totally broken down person, and that was a very different experience. And obviously some people still need that type of thing. But,
oh yeah.
What are there themes that you see? Is it stress in job? Is it stress in home? Is it stress in relationships? Like what's stressing people out?
Yeah, all of the above.
Yeah.
So it kind of depends on what somebody is looking for some healing around. Something that, and I don't know if it's kind of my approach to therapy or if it's a general theme, but it's the inner dialogue and how that relates to some of the unhealed pieces of somebody's life. And there's something that they're just sick of being in pain about, or they want to move on with something. And we can always kind of trail it back to, well, let's talk about what happened when, in a way that's not threatening, normalizing it so it feels like a safe place to be able to address those things. And then they're like, that makes a lot of sense why we landed there.
Do you hear this a lot? Because I would imagine you do. People are like, you know what, I want to work on things, but I don't want to sit here and hash out my mommy and daddy issues. People are like, I want to get better, but I don't want to actually deal with the thing that's causing all of the problems.
Totally.
Right? Do you see that a lot?
1,000,000%.
Really?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And I get it, because if you want, sometimes people don't see the connection to it and why it even matters.
Yes.
Sometimes people are scared as hell to go there, so they don't want to. So let me just
hard.
avoid it. Let me put up my roadblock right now, so you know. And I get it. You know, there is a mindset of just moving forward and moving on. However, the way the brain works is it lives inside of us. All of our memories, they're there and they matter and they mean something. Just like when we are driving and it's a green light, but we don't know it's a green light, and we're just like, wait a second, did I just go through a green light? Yeah, it was probably green, but it's such in your subconscious because you've done it over and over and over again because you've seen so many green lights.
Yeah.
That means something in the way you show up in your present. So usually when I can explain it to people like that, there's a willingness to tap into it. And I also respect the fact that people don't want to rehash it either. That there's not any productivity in that either.
So let me ask you that from a therapist point of view, from a counselor point of view, from your trained point of view, what is the importance of rehashing it? Going through the experience again?
Sure. Yeah, it's about reprocessing.
Okay.
So when let's say, I'll give you an example of let's say a little kid, an 8-year-old that was bullied, for example. So they were bullied and told that they were, let's say, too scrawny or something like that.
Right.
And that kid registers in their brain that something must be wrong or different with me because I'm scrawny.
Got it.
So that kind of lays that groundwork for a little kid that doesn't have the developmental capability to understand that bully was just being a jerk and your body size means nothing. They're not there at that space.
Developmentally, like that hasn't happened.
Yeah, they don't have the vocabulary.
Right.
They don't know how to express themselves because they're just little. So that groundwork is laid at 7 years old, let's say. So they go throughout their life having this idea that something is different about them, let's say. So then flash forward to they're 25 years old and they're like, gosh, I just can't seem to date anybody. I don't know what's going on with me.
Maybe I'm too scrawny.
Maybe I just don't look good. Maybe people aren't attracted to me.
Right.
Well, why do you think that? And then you kind of take the steps back like, oh, you know what? I remember this kid, man, when I was in 2nd grade that just always tortured me about being, he's bigger than me, whatever. So we go back to that time. Hey, let's reprocess that. What do you think that meant when he said that you're scrawny? Probably nothing. He just maybe developed quicker than you. Maybe he, had nothing better to do.
Like
He's a jerk.
Kid. Like that happens.
Right.
Sure.
So this 25-year-old goes back and goes, you're right. Like, I don't need to be feeling that way because somebody else told me to feel that way. I get to decide how I want to be.
Isn't it the greatest aha moment too when they're able to like hit that moment and they go, oh my goodness gracious. Because as I always tell people, and we talk a lot about it on this podcast, it's like the brain wants the easy way out and the brain wants to prove you right at every step. So if the story in your head is I'm scrawny, you are going to find 100 ways every day where that impacts your life.
Yep.
You're just going to be looking for it subconsciously or
It's
not.
a survival technique. It's
really
a primitive part of being a human. We got to learn how to work the system a little better.
That's what I'm getting at, right? And so that's why I wanted to ask you that question, because the answer I wanted is what you gave. It's important to go back because we need to reprocess that moment and understand it now as an older, wiser adult, not an 8-year-old who experienced a mean moment.
That's right.
And it's critical because now that so now let's build on this.
Yeah.
It's not as easy as, oh, you know what, I repurposed it, I went through it, you know what, you're right. Now I'm done worried about being scrawny because now the work starts.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Now the work starts. So tell me what I mean when I say that. When I say now the work starts,
That's right.
What does that mean?
Okay, so you have your aha moment, right? And you're like, oh, dang, you're right. Like that did lay the groundwork for my self-consciousness and my body, let's say. Okay, so now every time this young man wakes up and takes a shower, looks in the mirror, that's still playing in the background because that's been playing in the background.
Right.
So it is his responsibility to be able to say, hey, you're good, I got you, I love you the way you are. As an example, there's other ways of doing that, but he's training his brain to think the healthier thing about himself. And
so affirmations are one way to do it.
Affirmations are one way to do it. I'm really into inner child work or parts work, to really heal it and let your inner child know. Because I feel like there's more connection when we do affirmations. Sometimes they can be surfacey. Yeah. But when they're really talking to your inner child and saying, "Hey, you're good. You're the way you are. I'm sorry somebody gave you that message, but you got one body, you got to deal with it, and you got to love it, or you might as well love it because it's with you forever." And I tell people sometimes, like, it's a lifer. This messaging is going to be with you for the rest of your life. Learn how to deal with it the right way.
This is so great. You and I are completely aligned on all of this stuff, which is so refreshing. Mm-hmm. And it really is fantastic. I have a psychiatrist on my podcast, Learn from People Who Lived It, and he likes to put it this way. He says, when we experience traumatic events, they go on our permanent record. So it's like an etching in a vinyl record. Mm-hmm. And then the way that the brain works is it's going to keep getting tripped up on that when it kind of like steps into anything that looks or tastes or touch or kind of feels like it. Mm-hmm. It's going to go back to that original programming unless you do things like reprocess, do the inner child work, and keep maybe some affirmations. Like, I can be powerful for people. Journaling. I mean, writing things down is a powerful way for people to go through it. But you're right. And he says, like, it's never going away. And then the little phrase that I put on the end of it is, I guess we have to learn to live with the sound of our record.
Yeah. That's right. That's a great way of putting it.
We gotta know that, like, okay, I'm stepping into the combat zone right now. And I say this specifically as it relates to work stress and family stress and relationship stress, right? Like for me, I hated my job for the last couple of years. What was every drive to work like? I hate this job.
Yep.
Oh my God, I don't even want to see this person today. I don't want to deal with this person today.
How does that set you up?
Right. Yeah. And then you walk in there and you got to be there all day and you're like, this sucks. Mm-hmm. And you just prove to yourself that it sucks. And literally I had to go through a transformation where I just say, it's not the job that sucks, buddy. Like, you got other things in your life that are really bothering you and you need to go to work on those things. Mm-hmm. And you can get that stuff sorted out. The job might not be the thing. And I've only learned that over time. I quit the job because I thought it was the job. And now I'm 3 years removed from it. And I can say, well, a lot of it was the job. Mm-hmm. A lot of it was just the role that I had and the schedule and everything else. But some of that stuff was on me too. Mm-hmm. Some of that stuff was on me to fix. And now I'm in a space where I'm doing these burnout workshops for teachers and healthcare professionals and stuff because I burned out. And I'm like, here's how I put it back together. You can try my model, and if it works for you, great, right?
Yes.
But we just, everybody's toasty, and we got to find a way to fix this problem. Mm-hmm. And I know for a fact, for almost everybody, it starts with us.
Yes.
Like, we have to put the finger down and stop pointing exteriorly at everything else, and we have to go, what am I going to do to fix this situation?
Yep. Yep.
Because it's really on us. And so how do you help people find their power? Because that's what they need if they're going to do that, right?
My first response is that it's harder than you think it is. Because I think we're conditioned to look externally and be like, oh, it's this or it's that or it's, the trauma that I've endured. And yes, all of these things contribute to it, but it is from within. And the fact of the matter is, that is where the power comes from, is to be able to have those awarenesses and make those changes. So I think it's really about the compassion, balancing compassion and validation with somebody's experience. Hey, I see that your life was extremely traumatic and difficult, and also you're the one living with it. So let's really give you the tools and the understanding. And I think a lot of people just don't know how. And I don't blame anybody for not knowing how. It's not like it's there's like
there's
parenting,
no manual,
right?
There's no manual. Unless your mom's a therapist.
Oh, I know.
Right? Or your dad's a therapist.
You should ask my kids what they think. I'm sure they love it.
You're like, honey, how does that make you feel? Mom, I'm going to punch you in the nose.
Yeah, they got good boundaries with that. Do not therapize me right now.
Yeah, but that's all right. I mean, totally. You had wonderful tools to help them. Mm-hmm. And, if anybody's ever seen, and I'm going to have you expand on this inner child thing in just a second, but if anybody has ever seen this thing on like Instagram or TikTok or whatever, where they take a glass of soda and then they take a glass of water and they pour the clear water into the soda, and they pour another glass of water into the soda, and another glass, and eventually over time what ends up happening? There's no more soda left. And that's kind of the metaphor for breaking these generational cycles within our families. Like, we may not clear up the water in one generation, but we can make it clearer for the next generation.
Yep, exactly.
And to me, that's kind of the cool part about, you being able to be a therapist, is that you can be aware of like, oh, whoa, hold on a second. That's going to leave a mark. And I'm not saying you got it perfect, but...
Oh my gosh, I have to tell you. So yes, I know exactly what video you're talking about.
Yeah.
I'm getting goosebumps right now. My daughter actually sent it to me. And she was like, I think this is what you're doing with us.
Oh my God.
I mean, talk about the waterworks, right? Like, because I'm always questioning. Like, of course I don't. I'm just doing the best I can do. I'm lucky enough to have a lot of resources. And something that I really love about this job is that I'm kind of in therapy every single day. Every time I have a conversation with somebody, I'm thinking about these things. Yes. I'm reinforcing these things. I'm practicing these things.
Yes.
So I know, and so I'm just like, dang, did I just like get the luckiest job on the planet,
And it's a good time to do it because you said at the onset, like, to me, and I share this sentiment with you, there's never been a better time to heal.
Yep.
The modalities are out there. There's modalities where you can talk. There's modalities where you don't have to say anything. There's ceremonies for people that want to go down that road. There's medications for people that feel safer in that road. Like, there's so many options now to kind of start to put the pieces back together. So let's spend some time talking about inner child.
Yeah.
It was single-handedly the biggest marker in my journey of healing. When I first up became aware of a few situations in my life that were really, really challenging growing up, and then with the help of a therapist was able to walk back. I'll tell this story really quickly. It's like one of the things that I had to do was I had to go back. So here was my practice. Ready? I'm sitting in my therapist's office just like this. And she's like, okay, I want you to close your eyes. And I want you to pretend like you're getting ready to walk down a hallway right now. When you get to the end of the hallway, there's going to be a door. When you walk through the door, your 9-year-old self who had just gotten that beating is going to be sitting there. And you're going to walk in as you right here and now, 50-year-old self, confident, wise, and you're going to sit down with that little kid. And you're going to tell him that he didn't deserve it and it's not his fault. And then you're going to tell him what you think about him and how you hope he's going to grow up. And I mean, number one, I'm getting through this story now without any tears because I've shared it enough times. But the first time that I A, became aware of that concept, and then B, sat down and had a conversation with my little 9-year-old self to let that dude off the hook. And then I did it again for my 12-year-old self, and I did it again for my 23-year-old self. It literally changed the game for me.
Yes.
It completely rewired how I think. And 3 years later, I'm still in that mindset. I'm unwavering with it. I refuse to go back to the way that it was.
Yeah.
And that great expression out there, which is that problem ran into my family until it ran into me. And I'm done with it, man. Like, we're done acting like we don't know. We have to get back to knowing because we do. I believe that.
Oh, your body knows that.
Yes. So talk to my audience about inner child wounds. Talk to them as though maybe they have no idea what I just said and what it is from your vantage point.
Yeah, so I guess I would think about the person who doesn't have a lot of childhood memories.
That's a good tip off.
Yeah, there's a reason. I mean, they are in you. Don't let your lack of memory fool you. They do live inside of you. I mean, unless you had some sort of like traumatic brain injury, I'm not speaking to that. There's the reason why you can't remember your childhood is because you're protecting yourself from something.
That's so crazy.
Right?
My wife and I talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
She's like, how do you not know anything from your childhood?
Yeah.
I'm like, babe, I
Survival.
blocked it out. Like, I just blocked it out.
You had to. Which, to that little kid who blocked it out, wow, good for you for finding the tools to be able to protect yourself. A vulnerable little kid, let's say 6, 7, 8-year-old who has no real power in this world. They can't get a job. They can't drive. They can't really do a whole lot for themselves. They're dependent on the adults around
100%.
them. So they have to figure out a way to survive. And forgetting it, put that big old block up, that's a great way to do it. Good for you, little kid, for doing that. Now, once you feel safe as an adult, we're going to go back, making sure that you want to help somebody ground them so they know. I don't know why I keep going to the 25-year-old, but we'll stick with them.
Go for it.
25-year-old person.
Well, I like it because it's not always about being 8 and 12 and 16. Like, you can be almost any age and experience something that changes the way you think about the world.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely. So if you're an adult and you're sitting in therapy and you're asking yourself, I don't know what it is, but I don't even remember my childhood. You really want to work with that person to feel that they are able to keep themselves safe as an adult. Once they're able to keep themselves safe and as an adult, and you give them that framework, then they have that kind of confidence to go back so that they can also feel safe in reprocessing that memory that they're having, or processing a time in their life. And there's a lot of techniques to kind of uncover memories. Something I always like to say is, do you remember what the house you look like, or the house you lived in looked like? Yeah, no, kind of. I kind of remember the street. Okay, so just kind of visualize the house. And it's incredible what the brain does. Once you visualize the house, you kind of close your eyes and sit with it. Then you start to remember, you know what? It had a porch swing. You know what? I remember it had carpet. So your brain starts to kind of put the train on the tracks to develop the fuller memory. And the more that you do that, the more details start to emerge. And then you can start to get some clues on some healing that maybe needs to be done.
Could I just say really quick because this was an important piece for me, that if you're going to go down this journey of inner child work, it's going to come with looking at the people that raised you.
Oh, yes.
And it's going to come with this moment where you feel like, I can't blow up my parents about this thing they did to me.
Right.
And I would just encourage everybody to look at it like this. You're not blowing them up like you're putting them on TMZ and you're looking like for the whole world to ridicule them for the way that they did things. They did the best they could with what they knew.
Yep.
You're doing it so that you can be the one who works through it and be better for the next generation. Like, that's it. That's your motivation. Your motivation isn't to punish your parents. It isn't to make them feel worse about it. It isn't to do any of, at least in my opinion, that's not a pure motivation.
Yeah.
The motivation is simply like, man, I just want to stop this stupid thought pattern that I have.
Yeah.
Or I want to stop acting this way every time a boss gets upset with me or asks me to do something better. Or when my opinion is offered and it's not validated, I want to stop feeling like that little 8-year-old who got told to shut up all the time. Yeah. Like, that's the motivation to work through these things and get better about them. I mean, do you see it the same way?
100%. And I always like to kind of, I don't think warn is the right word, but communicate that and let them know, like, hey, I'm not in the business of cutting families up and making, setting these. I mean, sometimes obviously there's a time and a place for certain serious responses like that.
Totally.
But for the most part, some of us are our parents are helping us take care of our kids. Sometimes our parents are helping us financially, or we still have these relationships with them. It is all about the compassion and understanding and awareness. Then maybe if you're able to, you can communicate these things to your parents, and then they can even start their healing process as well.
So let's talk about that really quickly. How do you deal with? And this was my story, so I'm going to give you my version of how this happened too. But what's your advice to your folks who are like, man, my mom and dad are never going to change, or man, my boss is never going to change, or man, my husband's never going to change. This is just the way they are. And so I want to work on myself, but I can tell you they're not going to want to do any work. And I can tell almost everybody out there they're not going to want to do any work, because the moment you start changing, they have to start looking at themselves. And that's where the rub comes in, right? So how do you counsel folks to get through that moment where they want to work on things, but the people around them are giving them a hard time about it?
Yeah, it's that's always such a hard question. I think with the understanding that they might not be happy with the outcome of what happens with that they're, I know, and I would love for everybody to get repair and healing from parents, spouses, coworkers, bosses, things like that. There's no guarantee with that. Don't let that stop you from trying to understand yourself. And it's true, the more healed and aligned you become, the easier it is to show up in a way that you feel confident and good about, that it does kind of force other people to change. And sometimes that change means that the relationship no longer exists, or sometimes that change is an awareness of ways that they can improve on their own life.
So I had a therapist once upon a time. His advice to me, I'm going to get your take on this, because I didn't like this therapist very much, but I did like this one thing that he offered me. He said, while you're shifting in this space, I want you to engage with your mom. It was my mom at the time. Engage with your mom in a custodial way. And he said, and I was like, well, what does that mean? He said, well, just think about what a custodian does. It comes in, it picks up, it checks in on things, sees what's needed. It's not an emotional thing. There's not like a bunch of feelings involved. He's just taking out the trash or sweeping up or checking to see what needs to be restocked. And he said, so while you're shifting over the next, whatever, 5, 6, 12 weeks, however long this takes, don't feel like you got to be all in with your mom during this time. Check in with her. Say hi to her. Reach out. Don't be a jerk son. But you don't have to be so invested in her while you're shifting through this thing. And I don't know why, but that felt like good advice to me.
Sure. I could see that being good advice.
Yeah. And I've counseled other people to do the same thing. It's like, how about this? Just be custodial with them for a little while.
Yeah.
They can still be in your life, but they don't have to be the touchy-feely parts of your life. And you just said something else that's really, really true for people, which is sometimes people have to go.
Yeah.
And that's the hard part.
Oh, it sucks. It's the worst. It's the worst. I know. And there's no guarantees, but you got to take care of yourself, and I don't mean that in a selfish way, of course. I mean it in a healed, kind of protective way that even protective probably isn't the right word. But I think to what you're speaking to, it's as I go through my healing process, I'm going to be vulnerable. I'm going to be kind of questioning some things. I might have some resentment or some anger, but I don't want to break this relationship at this time. So how do I kind of create some boundaries, emotional boundaries for me that allows me to keep this relationship with this important figure in my life, but also protects the part of me that I'm just not ready to be vulnerable with yet.
Sure, yeah. And just to follow up to that, when I shifted through that, then I was able to start putting my relationship back together with my mom, right? Which was freaking wonderful, because she just died recently, and she died, and we were in a really wonderful place.
Oh, wow.
Like, it was an incredible blessing. I really feel in a lot of ways, and I haven't talked about this before on my podcast, but I feel like I can share it with you, is that 3 years ago when I went through that major healing journey, her and I's relationship with us was a huge piece of that. We just had, I always tell people, my mom was amazing. She was supportive, she busted her ass, she would do anything for you. If she could provide it, she would have. But we just had all the other shit too. And nobody's in therapy because they got too many hugs.
Yeah.
Right? So, but we were able to fix that relationship and put it back on the tracks like you were just talking about. And I can tell you that when she died, I just kind of looked up and I said, I can't believe what a blessing it is that for the last 3 years, I got to go on this amazing healing journey and figure out who I am and put my relationship back together with the one woman that I wanted to have a relationship with my whole life anyways. And now she goes and she's in peace, and I can feel so content about that.
Yeah.
And I say that because I think that I know there's a lot of people who have so much animosity towards their parents.
Yeah.
And they have really strained relationships with their parents. And I think I just say that to say, man, listen, try to find a way to put that back on the tracks, because when they go, you'll never regret putting in that work.
I think so too, for a lot of reasons. So I guess, can I ask you so you had that.
Take me deep, let's go.
Okay, so you had the custodial kind of dynamic with her for a while, did your own healing. What helped you get more vulnerable with her and start having that reparative process to heal the relationship?
It was one phone call. I called my mom shortly after my retreat, and I said, "Hey, Mom, I think we should talk. We should just talk about our experience together, and because it didn't feel good for me sometimes, it must not have felt good for you sometimes. We were very tough towards each other, and I said, I want to do this because I want to have a better relationship with you, and I'm telling you, within seconds." She's like, Mathew, my dad was such a monster. And she starts telling me all this stuff about her upbringing. And I'm learning things about my mom that I never knew in my life. Like getting beat with chains, like in a farm, like horrific things happening. 10 brothers and sisters in a small farmhouse with no money. Like imagine that scenario.
Right.
And it became so clear to me in that moment that my mom needed her own healing. And as is kind of, I think, my way, if I can provide the space for somebody to do that, I want to. It feels good to me. And so I hope I'm answering your question by saying the reason that we could do it or we wanted to do it is because I knew that she needed to heal too. And I thought, well, we could do that together.
And I think you said something really important is that you had to make sure, I think you mentioned coming off of a retreat, probably feeling really empowered, really healed and strong, so you were able
ready to get to work.
Yes,
yeah, for
you were
sure.
able to be vulnerable, because even the conversation is opening yourself up. Hey, Mom, we need to talk. Sometimes, I mean, you and I can sit here and say easy, right?
Right.
But when you pick up that phone and you're talking to a parent that you're not sure what they're going to respond with, that's brave to be able to do that. And the fact that you had that courage to be able to do it says you did your healing, number one. Number two, Mom heard that and was able to meet you to an extent, you know.
She took her time.
Yeah.
For sure.
But you knew it made you feel safe. Because what if you said, hey, Mom, we need to talk. Oh, Matthew, you're always wanting to talk about things.
Right,
Ooh,
right.
The rejection that comes with that. And the inner child just got, punished again, and all the protective mechanisms go into play.
How do you know me so well?
Oh, it's because we're all human.
Yeah, that's it.
We all go through the same things, And sometimes you feel brave enough to dip your toe in. You may not get the reaction that you want from your parent. You go back to the custodial interaction, right?
Yeah.
Keep doing your healing. Maybe you feel ready again. Maybe you don't. So it really is continuing to kind of see if you can make that connection with somebody. And once you do, or somebody, your mom in this case, when they're ready and they open that door, woo!
The other piece of that was just that I got to a point where I recognized that I was way too hard on her.
Yeah. But why though? Because you're protecting yourself.
Sure.
I
give myself all the grace in the world for going and feeling those emotions. But, I just didn't want to be that hard on her anymore.
Yeah. Well, and to be fair, maybe you didn't know her story to the extent that she was able to communicate it later on in her life when she felt brave enough or courageous enough to even say it. Because maybe when she's a 30-year-old mom or something, she's like, oh, ain't no way I'm opening that door. I got kids to raise, I was
going in, I hate to keep bringing back this retreat, but it was so powerful. But
That's awesome.
I was in, I don't know what they call it. This was some sort of a prayer circle kind of a thing. And I'm walking through, and this guy's like, just whatever comes to you, I just want you to say it out loud. And I started walking, and all of a sudden I started muttering, healing me heals them. Healing me heals them. And I couldn't let go of it. And eventually turned into healing me heals her. And so that's where we got to that point where it just felt empowering to me.
It's like you had to. Once you kind of come to that, yeah.
And I still feel that way. Awesome. Because every time I'm in a room and I open up, somebody else does too. And this is what therapists do better than almost anybody, is they provide the space for you to open up and talk about it the way it really is, unfiltered. Right?
Yep.
What does this person think about me? Nothing.
Yeah.
They think you're incredible.
Absolutely.
And you're working through some shit. That's what they think about you.
That is exactly it.
And they're here to help you out in any way they can. Oh, man. I don't know how much time we have, maybe another 15 minutes or so. What are some of the things that you really are passionate about working with when it comes to some of the folks that step on your couch or sit on your couch?
I think first and foremost is the importance of connection and really letting somebody know I see them. I'm here with you as you walk through this next step in your life. And you're not alone in doing so. That's another part of being a human being, is that we need to do it with one another. We need to be in connection with one another.
And we're kind of repairing that from COVID still.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Absolutely.
Way, right? Yes, absolutely. I think we really need to prioritize it in all the spaces that we can. So being able to tell somebody, hey, you're seen, and I know sometimes people ask me, oh my God, is my story crazy? I don't even want to tell you, because I'm like, trust me.
I've heard it all.
It doesn't matter what your story is. And there could be something that I've never heard, but I know humans, and I know that probably hurt you, and I know that you're probably stuck on it. So we can work through it in that kind of way.
Yeah.
So safety, connection, and being seen, and knowing that there's a path forward, I think is something I'm extremely passionate about, because I see it change lives.
So I want to spend a second talking about this idea of being seen.
Yeah.
Some people do a really good job of making themselves small so that they're not seen. And then they go, why does nobody see me? And I just wonder about, how do we help? I'm always interested in, how do we help these people that don't even know they need help, right? Like, those are the people I want to find.
Right.
And so you're making yourself small, and then you're over there screaming, why does nobody see me? So I guess what's step one? Start making yourself bigger? Start making you bigger in the world? What do you think?
You mean for the person who is shrinking themselves, or the observer of the person?
Yeah, the person that's shrinking themselves and playing. I love this. They're talking about it now on a lot of social media. People who play small. Yeah, play big. The language is start playing bigger.
Yeah.
Start playing like you matter, and you're a big part of this equation, right?
Right.
And so for the person that's playing small and is upset that nobody sees them, it's like, well, how can we see you? You're playing small.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
You need to play bigger so we can see you. How do you help somebody step into that? Is that a confidence thing? Is that a self-esteem thing? What do you think it is?
Okay, so in full transparency, I'm feeling triggered right now.
Oh, shoot. I love it.
I'll tell you why, though, because it's one of my biggest internal battles that I have with myself is that I feel like I play small all the time. Because I feel so excited, so passionate, so I have so much to offer. I want to heal everybody as much as I can, right? And I'm not on social media. I mean, I am, but it's like my kids, and my business is kind of. So I don't put myself out there. Networking events, I do my best, but I'm still limited with that. Things like marketing, I'm limited with that. Why am I playing small? So when you said that, I was like, oh shit, is he calling me out or what? What's happening here? So
it's not my goal.
No, of course not. Yeah. The thing about that is that
you get on the couch. Let's work this out here. Yeah,
let's work it out. I was like, oh man, talk about like me trying to understand myself better, and even going through therapy recently to really like unpack it. Why the heck do I keep getting stuck in this place? And then frustrated, how come things aren't happening for me, type of thing. So what I'll say from my experience, and what I would say with maybe other people, you're too scared.
Yeah, it's fear.
And there's not any shame in that. You're not like a scaredy cat.
Sure.
It's kind of, well, why are you scared? Because somewhere along the way, somebody made you feel that you're going to be rejected, or you're going to be, I think it's fear of rejection. That's what I think it all boils down to.
Okay. Yeah, that's cool. And I've been having to confront that monster too. I played big my whole life, and then I got small after I left my job, and I don't like the way it feels.
Yeah.
Right? And I want to get back to playing big. And so for me, one of my exercises is I throw my hand over my heart and I ask myself, why are you being small right now? Why? What's freaking you out about this moment? And then I usually go back to some old wiring and some old programming.
Oh, totally.
And then I'm like, my mode is I slap.
Okay.
I snap my, and I just stop the thought pattern. I'm like, stop it. Move into this thing. Stop being a kid. Be an adult. You got it? And sometimes I look at myself in the mirror. I know I sound so crazy right now.
No, not at all.
But
I was like, you're talking to a therapist.
Yeah, so. I guess you're right. I'm in good hands.
You're in good hands.
But I will literally just go in front of the mirror and be like, stop it, man. Look at yourself. You're not that 12-year-old kid anymore, okay? You're 50. You're wise. You got all your ducks in a row. You're in good shape. All the things are here. Play big. Get to it right now. Go make the phone call.
Oof, love it.
And then I do it.
Yep.
And what usually happens? It's amazing.
Always.
And there's no problems.
Every time. Every single time.
So
it's like,
ridiculous.
Why don't I do this more often? But it goes back to, what is it, the permanent record?
Yes.
Yes, it is. It's the permanent record that you have to be intentional about all the time. And things like, life gets busy. We kind of forget. We couldn't put this inner dialogue, healing. We could put that on the back burner sometimes because we got to go to work. We got to pay the bills. We got to take care of the kids, all the things, right? That we neglect that side sometimes and creeps up every single time.
I know.
Right?
I don't like that.
I know, but it is what it is. That's what life is.
But I guess but then it's like it's our job to recognize that, right?
That's right.
And you said that almost like one of the very first things you said today was like, and it's your job. Mm-hmm. And it's your job.
Yes.
Yeah.
And your job could be finding the support systems that encourage that. So it's not like you have to feel this immense sense of responsibility to figure it all out because it's your job. There's support systems that are out there to really
community.
Community to fill that.
Right. So maybe we can kind of wrap up with this thought. Is like I do a lot of work in the prison systems, and I get to go talk to juvenile inmates, which is amazing.
The teenagers. We need to capture the teenagers.
I know, right?
Yes.
I'm also a youth hockey coach, and I coach high school hockey, so I'm around them all the time.
Love it.
But at any rate, I saw this really powerful Instagram post a few weeks ago, and the guy was talking about community. He was talking about the people that we surround ourselves with. And I think there's a book out there that kind of articulates this idea, which we are the sum of the 5 people that we hang out with the most, right? And so this pastor did this great job where he invited this young man onto a stage, and then he asked 5 men to come up and hold hands around him. And it was just this powerful image of this man standing in the middle of this thing with his support team around him. These were the 5 people that were there to support him. And the pastor says, now the problem is that if you want to move a certain way and these 5 people don't move with you, they are not your support system anymore. Now they're your prison. Mm-hmm. Now they're the ones holding you back and holding you down. And so we can kind of wrap up with this thought that as it relates to therapy, as it relates to starting to want to work on some things, how important is it going to be for that person to find those 5 folks who want to move with them? Yeah,
really. I mean, it's super important. And I think there's a couple like moving parts that come with that, because it could be you're not showing up the way you need to show up for your relationships, meaning setting boundaries, communicating your needs, regulating your nervous system, all the self-care things that one needs to do to be able to have these conversations, because your support system might be the ones that will move with you if they know how to and they know that's what you need. Right. Whereas sometimes people may not. And the only way you're going to know the difference is if you are able to advocate for yourself and let them know what you need.
Okay. I love sitting down with people like you. You're
thanks.
mean, the things that you know, the way that you approach life, the way that you talk about, all of these things. It's just, if there's one thing I've learned, it's just that it's not easy. And to do this work and move over some of these obstacles is just going to take some time and some effort. But then it's also really going to be important to be around the right people. Yeah, for sure. And how do you know who the right people are? Know yourself. Yeah. Know yourself in a healed space, find your voice, say what you need, and then you'll figure out who's with you and who's not. All right, what's your final words of wisdom? They're driving to work right now. They're about to pull in, park their car, and get about their day. What do you want them to know? Oh God, there's so much. Take your time. I'll edit out all the space if it takes you 2 minutes. I don't care. I would say that there is a way to live the life that you want to live, as long as you have the right support systems, tools, and understanding. And with that, it will be okay. Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. So cool to sit down with you today. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for inviting me to do this. Yeah. I am telling you, I love this job. I love talking to people about the job. So anytime anybody gives me a platform to do it, I feel so grateful to spread the word and let people know, like, it's possible to get out of pain. It's possible to be the version of yourself that you dream about being. Look at you playing big. Look at you playing big over there. Thank you. Good. Look at this. I'm trying. Yeah. I'm telling you, I practice what I preach. Yeah. If I'm telling somebody else don't play small, I better be holding myself accountable to do it too. So it's I am walking the walk as much as I can, which also helps remind me that walking the walk sometimes is scarier than it thinks. Yes. So you're located in, is this Phoenix technically? Yeah. Oh yeah. And where's, if people want to visit with you, if they've listened to us and they're like, that has to be my person. Oh, that's awesome. How do they find you? That. Yeah. Yep. So we are on 15th Avenue, just south of Indian School in Phoenix. We're kind of near the Melrose district, a little bit by like the historic Encanto district. So
pretty close to downtown.
Yep.
Very accessible to all the freeways. But we also
right
do virtual.
off the biggest one, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then we have we do virtual. We also do in person, and we have via my company. We have myself and 2 other therapists that are here. But our building also houses a marriage and family therapist. That's amazing. And she has a partner that works with her as well. So we have a lot of support here if anybody needs anything.
Okay. Is there a website set up?
Yep. It's viacounselingservices.com. And all the bios for the therapist and our team is up there, and talks a little bit about our services.
Love it. Thank you so much, Kelly.
Yes, thank you for having me. This was awesome to talk with you.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Cool.
All right, that's it.
We have 3 goals with Learn from People Who Lived It. 1. To help you feel less alone. 2. Encourage you to seek out a coach, a therapist, a church, anyone who can help you get through your journey and find some healing. 3. When you're ready, share your story with us.
Find Learn from People Who Lived It wherever you get podcasts. Search it using all one word. Learn from People Who Lived It.